Hello everybody, I'm certainly sorry that I'm not there today. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for not being with you today. It's a great disappointment that at this important time in our state's history, and indeed the history of this nation, I cannot share with you my personal views as a citizen. You know, we meet today in a city known for its strength, among people known for their resilience. And we find ourselves in need of both strength and resilience. Our main concern needs to rest with how we can grow and expand our economy, create more wealth, not wealth for the wealthy, but for all, even the least among us. As a wise man once said, an injustice to a man anywhere is an injustice to all men everywhere. We live in a nation where the roads are no longer safe, where ambulances remove the carnage from our roads, where the infant mortality rate of our Indigenous people is twice that of the Australian community, where the life expectancy of many of our poorer and downtrodden citizens is less than it should be, where health services are declining, where our elderly and veterans are forgotten, where the tyranny of distance separates the hopes and aspirations of remote Australia, where despair and homeless and the unemployed robs the nation of the productivity of our citizens. Business is what's most important. Confidence is low and our economy in Queensland is suppressed by low levels of domestic demand and commercial activity. This is self-evident to all of us by the increasing office vacancies, not only in Brisbane, but in every regional centre of the state. Tourism is suppressed, domestic demand has fallen and will fall to an all-time low in the coming months. If the Australian government does not change its policies, our economy will continue to decline. Domestic demand is driven by the money supply and the confidence of the community in the future. Resource projects are at all-time low and will continue for the remainder of the year. In Queensland, major projects such as the development of the Gay-Lea Coal Basin cannot proceed because of the low price for thermal coal. The last LNP government of Queensland squandered repeated opportunities for the development of the Gay-Lea Basin when coal prices were higher. In the case of Waratah Coal, which I was chairman, an investment of over $10.5 billion was rejected in favour of providing financial support from the taxpayers to Indian companies. And despite the fact that 3 years has passed, nothing has happened. Consequently, Brisbane and Queensland has suffered, and unemployment has continued to rise and capital investment decline. The new Queensland government can make a difference in having a level playing field for all proponents, for all projects. If they're all treated equally, regardless of political considerations, the government's role should be not to pick winners. Most politicians of all political parties don't have the competence. We should ensure that there is an open and a fair process to ensure that development of major projects which have the potential to provide long-term benefits to the state and secure long-term prosperity, we all long for as Queenslanders. Government cannot provide enterprise and the ideas necessary to drive the Queensland economy. That must come from the creativity of its citizens and the conditions that government can influence the driver of the Queensland economy. At the moment, there are so many smaller enterprises in every section of the community. One of the common features of the Queensland enterprises is their access to sufficient capital to grow and make investments necessary to employ further people and to stimulate domestic demand. In Australia, all our companies and businesses are required to pay provisional tax. The current Ford estimates puts receipts from provisional tax at $70 billion. If we were to move the date for payment of provisional tax from before our enterprises have earned the tax till the end of the year, after we know they've made a profit, we would free $70 billion into the economy and allow enterprises to do what they do best, create jobs, boost domestic demand, and the key to economic growth. What would it cost at 2.5% interest rates available to the government? Around $900 million, given the schedule of payments in the Ford projections. If $70 billion is turned over 3 times by individual taxpayers during the year, the government gets an extra $21 billion GST, plus increased company and group tax, expanded exports and real growth, which will turbocharge the economy. President Obama in the United States has restored the US economy by quantitative easing, and the European Union has now adopted a growth strategy, while here in Australia, government continues to push for austerity and project doom and gloom and destroy confidence and collapse our economy. Following Greece's lead, rather than that of the United States or the Europeans, a lead for growth and prosperity. The worst is that this policy of the Australian government is based upon a lie. It's not just a question, as Bill Shorten says, that the budget is unfair. It is that the fact that the budget is untrue. Australia is one of the lowest debt countries in the OECD, with a debt of just 12% of its GDP, where the average OECD debt is around 77%. Australia is only one of 13 countries that has a AAA credit rating. There's a difference between the state of the Australian government finances and the state of the Australian economy. Australian government debt position is one of the best in the world, while the state of the Australian economy, if we stick with the current cuts mentality, will mean that demand will deteriorate and the economy will collapse. And the Treasurer, Joe Hockey, knows that the forward projection of debt in the next 50 years' time would mean, if nothing is done, if there are no wars, no resources booms over the next 50 years, that Australia's debt would be, as a percentage of GDP, less than the current OECD average and less than the UK, Japan and the United States have at present. So why destroy our standard of living? Why collapse our domestic economy? Just for ideological reasons? If it ain't broke, why pretend it is? The Australian government's financial position is the envy of the world. The trouble is that those we elect to office are constricted to the current two-party system. Debate is limited, and members of Parliament are controlled primarily by fear, and fear of leaving their endorsement or losing the election. If they don't toe the party line, if we make the first $10,000 of payments on a home loan tax deductible, we'll boost demand for houses and provide an incentive for people to invest and buy homes. By boosting the construction of industry, we'll increase the amount of GST paid to the government and expand demand in our economy. The measures I've spoken about today are examples of ideas and things that we can do. The problems in our economy have been made by Australians, and they can be solved by Australians. Australia needs a national economic summit so Australians can contribute solutions to boost our economy. Ideas are not restricted to the two major parties. Business leaders, industry unions, employee groups and citizens should all have the opportunity to contribute. Tony Abbott and the LNP voted 97% of the time with the Gillard government. The game of politics makes a lot about difference, but less about common ground. What we need in this country is more unity and more focus on what we are as Australians that live at this time and what we can achieve. We need to have an open mind. We need to listen and not be fixed in our views. Public service should be just that, service to the public, the political system in this country. In the final analysis, we need to remember that, as a wise man once said, we live on this one small planet. We need to remember who we are and where we come from and protect our common values. We must stay forever vigilant and ensure that our country has a high level of tolerance to accept diversity and acknowledging Australia is a multi-ethnic country, that all communities have a critical role to play, that all of us, regardless of our class, religion or ethnicity, have a strong link to each other, and that we have a shared future. All Australians, including the first Australians, arrived here from another place. The world today is in turmoil. We need to remember that Australia has an important role to play in providing solutions. Let's not concentrate on problems, but let us concentrate on solutions. We should not seek to make refugees a scapegoat for our problems, nor can we be satisfied that we stop the boats, abolish the carbon tax and the mining tax. Australia needs more than that. The government has the support of many thousands of officers and can swamp our team with detail and endeavour to rob from them the rights bestowed upon them by the Australian people, to exercise their vote in an informed and considered manner. Members of Parliament should stay true to the people who elected them. This is despite any other pressures from parties or anyone else. Others may seek to bestow pressures on them, but we must stand independent. Australians must work together so that man can be, as he was meant to be, free and independent. It's ideas that capture the conscience of the nation. It's ideas that endure when all else is gone. Let us unite to serve the nation we love, to discover our future, to share our trials and tribulations, to overcome adversity, to pull together for our common good under the Southern Cross. And to know, as a great man once said, that on this earth, God's work must truly be our own.